Hey everyone, it is Stephanie here with Infernal TV, and I am here with Keith from Artificial Brain. So, how are you?
Good, good. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much. All
Awesome.
right. So now let's go immediately into your self-titled album. It was just released a couple weeks ago, I
Mhm.
believe.
Yeah.
So now I guess what immediately want to ask is like when you write an album, because obviously, like you're all, very technical, like the music itself is very technical. You all are very skilled musicians. But
Thanks.
how do you write an album that shows the extent of your musicianship but also has substance? It's not just like musicianship overload, you know?
Well, I think that first and foremost, we are conscious of not doing that. We don't want it to be a showcase. I mean, we don't particularly think of ourselves as like highly skilled musicians, so that's not the point of our music. I mean, we're not trying to do that. And I think the way we write, it's the freedom that we give each other to bring ideas to the table, and there's always a rough kind of skeleton to the songs. For example, like Dan will write some riffs and he'll program some drums, and he gives me the programmed drums, and I can either play them pretty much as they are, or I can change them and do whatever I want. Some parts he will say, like, this, do what you want, but this should be a blast. So just like do a blast beat your own way, but it should be a blast beat. And I think that we avoid being showcasey because we kind of always have the song and the band in mind, not ourselves. You know what I mean? Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that we end up being technical, and we end up being able to truly play because we give each other that freedom. But yeah, at the end of the day, we are cautious not to take too much freedom because the song is what's important.
Absolutely. And now you have a couple of pretty iconic guest musicians, Mike Browning and Luke LeMay, to name a couple. And I know there's more. So, what was it like
Yeah.
collaborating with these artists?
Well, it's funny because I had nothing to do with it whatsoever. So I'm over here in Denmark. I didn't see anybody. I didn't talk to anybody. When it came to the vocalists, Will was basically in charge of who he wanted, and getting them involved. So he was the main source of getting all those guys in. And I mean, when it comes to having Colin play the war guitar on the album, I mean, that was just something I think they were talking to each other back and forth, like the other guys, not Will, talking to each other back and forth in email, and Colin was like, "Yeah, I have an idea if you'll let me do it," and I think that's how it came along. But I wish I had more experience with these guests. That was something we really missed with the pandemic, was being in the studio together. So unfortunately, this time around, we didn't really get to enjoy that side of recording, especially me, because I'm the only one in Europe.
Interesting. And now, I know you mentioned in the first question, like, some of the different approaches to drumming and the techniques you use for this album. But I mean, can you say anything else about your approach to the drums for this one?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, I was fairly inexperienced as a drummer when we recorded our first album. So my goal as like a guy in his early 20s was to try to impress people. I mean, I kind of don't want to admit it, but like I wanted people to think I was good. I wanted to show what I can do. And the problem with that is that I wasn't good. So I wasn't nailing the ideas that I had. So every time I listen to that album, every single song, I'll think, oh man, like I should have toned it down a little bit so I could have nailed the parts. But now this album, especially like I said, like the fact that I was alone throughout this whole thing, practicing. You know, this is basically my little office in the basement. I have a computer, I have my electronic drum set, and you know, I haven't played an acoustic kit in over a year. And so my goal for this album was stay in my comfort zone, nail the parts, and don't worry about impressing anyone. It doesn't matter. What matters is playing to my best ability and making sure that I'm on point with my ideas. And it really made me you know, change the way I play drums, because I would practice out of my comfort zone, but when it was time to record, I didn't play anything that I couldn't play confidently. And I think that when you listen to a great band, and I'm not talking about us, but when you listen to a great band, it's very obvious that there's a sense of confidence behind the players and what they're doing. So I wanted people to listen to the album and feel comfortable, whereas in the past, you may hear my drumming is a little bit like it's rushing a little bit, or maybe it's a little off time. And I think that makes the listener a little uncomfortable. And I wanted to eliminate that. And I don't think that I truly did eliminate it, but I think it was a little bit better this time around. So that was really my main focus for this one.
Awesome. And now, can you talk about the album artwork?
Yeah, a guy named Adam Burke painted it. We gave him basically a couple of guidelines. I think we sent him some paintings from various painters and like a rough idea of what we were thinking of, and then we sent him the album, and then we were just like, do with this what you will, you know. And we talked about kind of like what we expected, but not really having too much expectations. And I think he just kind of nailed it. And I think that from the album art to the guest musicians to the production, you know, the person who recorded drums here in Denmark, his name is oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank here. Oh my God. It's so embarrassing. I'll get back to that. But the people that are involved in the recording, especially, it's like we are comfortable with them because they seem to get us. Finn, sorry, his name is Finn. So embarrassing. Hope he doesn't see this. But yeah. So with Adam, it was like we trusted him because I think he understands us, and it's the same with the guest vocalists, the guest musicians, the people we work with. I think Artificial Brain ended up being this, like I said before, this thing that's kind of bigger than us, bigger than the individual musicians. And it's the same with the guy we have, Evan, playing drums in the States when they're touring in the States, and Paulo, like all the different people that are involved with the band. It just ends up being a team of people who kind of get Artificial Brain, and it really is not exclusive to the 5, you know, members is basically what I'm trying to say. So yeah, the artwork kind of came to us, and we were like, yeah, perfect. This is exactly what we wanted.
So, well, this isn't a question I had planned, but this is, I guess, from listening to your response, just something I thought of, because I knew you had a touring drummer, but do you, like, when you play shows in Europe, do you play in Europe and not in the States, or does your touring drummers? Okay.
Yes. So we actually have never played in Europe before, and July 12th will be the first show of a 3-week tour in Europe. So the guys are coming to Denmark. They're going to stay with me for a few days, and then we're going to start that tour. And yeah, I'll be playing, which is funny because I said that I would, and we planned it all out. And then my wife and I recently had a kid. He's only like 2.5 at this. He's a little older than 2.5. But I was sitting here thinking like, oh my God, how am I going to leave my son for 3 weeks? And I tried to get out of the tour. They're like, sorry, man, you're not getting out of this. Like you committed to it. We need you. That, you know, we can't really replace you with this short of a time frame. And the American drummer Evan couldn't do it, so they were just like, yeah, it's game time. So time to like get in the mindset. But yeah, it'll be me for that tour, thankfully.
I mean, that's understandable, especially when you have a kid, but at least it's only 3 weeks. But still, I mean,
Yeah,
3 weeks
yeah,
too
yeah.
long to be away from your kid. I get it.
Yeah, it'll I think it's like anyone listening will be like, this is not a big deal, but when you go through your day to day with him, or him or her, your child, it's like I've never even been away from him for one night. So when you think about 3 weeks, I'm like, how is he going to handle this? I'm sure he's not even going to care. But yeah, it's like the fear of a parent is not very logical sometimes. It's just something that I have to remind myself it'll be okay. And FaceTime exists, so it's better now than 30 years ago.
Absolutely. All right, so now going back to the questions I had planned, because you mentioned in another previous, response about your like the differences, like with the like recording during the pandemic, for this album. But was there anything else new that you did in the writing and the recording process for this album that you never did before?
Yeah, yeah, basically 100% of the practicing was alone. I mean, I know I briefly mentioned that, but that's a pretty big deal for us because we're a band that is comprised of all guys that have grown up mostly in the same town in New York. I mean, we're all from a place called Valley Stream. So like Will was from a town maybe 30, 40 minutes east, but I mean, he's still in Long Island. And Oleg is from Brooklyn, but again, like not that far away. So the fact that we made it this far as friends, I mean, guys from the same, like literally the same place, the fact that we are now recording separately is very weird. And Dan moved to Virginia, and of course I'm in Europe, so we weren't sure how this was going to work. And when I told them I was moving away, I said, like, I of course would love to stay in the band. I can't play live, but I would love to be on the album. So let me prove that I can. And if I can't, and if it's a mess, then you guys replace me as fast as you want. No problem. But let me just try to show you that I can do this. So there was a lot of pressure to record this album, and it got pushed back, I think twice, 3 times. We were supposed to record in April 2020, which was like the center of the pandemic. So yeah, I think the biggest difference was just rehearsing these songs, writing these songs, and recording these songs completely alone, and not having these are some of my best friends in the world. Not having these guys in the same room as me was very emotional at some points, because it was like when I was trying to write some parts and I couldn't quite get them, it was like I had no one to turn to. I was just like alone. And I was doing a majority of my practicing at night when my wife and my son went to bed. So it's just like, in a dark basement room, away from home, just became a parent, just moved to a new country, figuring out a language, figuring out a job. It was just like, I couldn't help. Sometimes it would just be tough. So yeah, the difference was, as many bands I'm sure are saying because of the pandemic, like, yeah, just being alone and having to dig deep and pull out the motivation and the like belief in myself and ourselves that we can do this. Yeah, and finishing. I mean, some of these songs were written in like 2017. So I mean, we finally got everything together and got it done. It's kind of insane that it's been so long since I think Celestial Cyst was written at the same time as some of the songs on Infrared Horizon. So it's very interesting to see how much it's progressed since it was first written.
And it's interesting, especially that you brought up the like being alone and having to play alone and write alone, because
Yeah.
like being a musician in a band is just such a collective effort. And I
Yeah.
even know, like my boyfriend says, like he can't play, like write music and then do it all over the internet. He has to be in a room with the
Yeah.
band members. They all have to. So
Yeah.
that was a big, that sounds like, you know, it was a really, really big thing to get used to during the
It
pandemic, just
was,
being alone.
yeah, it was a huge factor. And I mean, like I said, I'm sure a lot of bands are saying the same thing, but some bands have always existed in this way. So for some people, it's like, yeah, whatever. I do all my writing alone. But I was never like that. I was really bad at practicing the albums alone. I was bad at practicing the set list alone. When I was in New York, I had an extremely busy schedule. So the only time I was playing with Artificial Brain was with Artificial Brain when we set aside time to practice together. Otherwise, I wasn't really playing. So now it was like, all right, my son is, when he was like 6 months old, he's down for a nap, run downstairs and practice the songs, or write the songs. So they weren't even songs yet. So that was another thing too. It was like, we picked April to record, April 2020. And it was like October and the songs weren't done yet. So we're like, what are we doing here? Like, are we going to be able to do this? Am I gonna move to Europe, tell them that I could record an album, and then I get to the studio and I'm like, I actually didn't finish writing the songs, guys. It's like, it was just, I low key was actually kind of relieved that the pandemic shut everything down, because I was like, oh, thank God I have some more time to finish these songs. And I am fairly certain that if there was no pandemic, you would be listening to a very different album. It was that extra time gave us enough to work with. So yeah, I'm not glad that it happened, but I was relieved.
I get what you mean.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Now let's talk vocals, because unfortunately this, was your last album with Will.
yeah.
So will Paolo be your permanent vocalist, or do you have any
No,
other
no.
ideas?
No, we don't have any ideas. We don't have any solid information. The only solid information we have is that we're playing live with Mike from Inner Arma, but other than that, we have nothing set. And it's actually kind of nice, because I mean, I feel very obligated to say that Will is the perfect singer for Artificial Brain. I mean, he's the voice of the band. He's the man for the job. And it really sucks that we parted ways, but I really do believe it was the best for everyone. And so we are not really in a rush to find a replacement. I mean, of course, practically speaking, it's probably best to get it done, because we have a lot of things in the works, like shows and future recordings and stuff like that. So we do need to get it done, but it's kind of nice to just work on some music without knowing what the vocals are going to sound like. And it hasn't been like that since 2009, because Will wasn't an original member, but he joined almost immediately. So I think we played like 3 or 4 shows without Will in the very beginning, and then he joined the band. And so it's been a long time since we kind of wrote not knowing what the vocals are going to sound like. And that's pretty interesting to me, at least.
That's interesting. And now, this is the last question. You can say anything you want. You can promote the album, promote the upcoming tour. Take it away. It's all yours.
Yeah, all right. I mean, I think that for anyone listening, check out the social media, because that's where all the dates are for the European tour. And there's some things that they're doing in the States too, and I don't have any specific information about that, obviously, because I'm not the one playing, so I kind of don't really pay attention to it. I'm not sure if that's like bad or not, but if I'm not involved, I tend to not really pay attention. And yeah, I don't know. What I wanted to say is just that I'm very grateful to have released an album that people give a shit about. So to people that are watching this, and to people that are following the band and that have been listening for a while, or just started listening, I feel like saying thank you to, thank you for giving us a reason to do this. I mean, we don't make a living off of this. This is out of love. So the love that we get from people that listen, it makes it all worthwhile. And I just, again, like now that I'm in Europe, I think a lot about the stuff that I left behind. And one of the things that I'm super grateful for is that I'm still able to be in this band, and that people are just listening. So I just feel like it's a privilege to be behind the kit for a band like Artificial Brain, because it really gives me something to play this instrument for. And if I didn't have them, I'm not sure. Of course I would still play drums, but I don't know what I'd be playing,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, this band gives me purpose, and the people that are paying attention, of course, people like you that want to speak to me, or speak to us, and the people that are just giving us a reason to play. I feel very grateful. So thank you for speaking to me today, and thank everyone listening. It's really awesome to be able to be in a band like Artificial Brain. I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't even know you guys were releasing a new album until like right when your publicist sent me the email. And then I was like, oh, cool. Like, I don't think I've interviewed this band yet. Can I talk to
Yeah,
them?
yeah.
Like, and I loved the album. I'm not just saying that. It
Awesome.
was awesome. I was just listening to it again last night, preparing these questions. I'm like, that one gets better with every listen, I swear.
Thank you. I'm so glad you feel that way. And actually, you saying that makes me also want to say too that, like, I've read, there's all kinds of opinions on the album, and I don't take negative opinions poorly, because that's just the nature of music, of course. But I always find it interesting when people speak about the album like they were expecting more, and I'm almost like, thanks, like I appreciate you thinking that, but I'm sorry we didn't deliver. It's like I feel so grateful that you thought it was going to be better. But like, I'm not sure, like maybe the next one, stick with us. Maybe the next one. It's funny.
All right, awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you everyone for checking out the interview. Just like Keith said, well, the third album of self-titled Artificial Brain came out like what, 2-3 weeks ago, something like that.
It was June 3rd, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
So
But
yeah.
yeah, it came out a few weeks ago. It's definitely check out the album if you haven't. Buy it. It's streaming on YouTube, on all Spotify, all on those things. Sure, you can buy the
Platforms,
album. And I'm sorry.
platforms.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Us. Yeah.
all the platforms. Yeah, definitely buy the album, buy merch, support this band. Like Keith said, they're going to be touring in Europe next month, and then I did see they have a couple shows, festivals planned in the US as well, and I'm sure this band will, probably be doing more tours throughout the year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think there's
definitely.
one in the works. Yeah, so there might be another one announced fairly soon if it does come through. But yeah, I'm not sure.
All right, awesome. And thank you again for listening, and stay metal, everyone.